something more than just what you see, which is Uber partnering with self-driving. What it actually means is that think of the situation if you can walk out of your house, open an app, and within 2-3 minutes summon a car to the front of your house without a driver, and you tell the car where to go and you go there, and you're able to do this at a phenomenally low cost, as Uber is. Why would you want to own a car? Right? When you buy a car, it spends on an average 22 hours stationary. The average car is driven for less than 2 hours by an individual on a daily basis. The rest of the time it's a phenomenally inefficient allocation of resources. Right? So again, what is the Uber model? It's about a more efficient allocation of resources by cutting out middlemen. In this case, it's the entire car manufacturer. So car manufacturers are bracing themselves, might say, what, it may not make sense for me to own a car, right? Because if I want to go on a long drive, I will call a Uber SUV. If I want to go on a romantic date, I will call a Uber convertible. Right? If I want to take my family, I will call an Uber Innova. Right? Whatever, really where the world is headed. So that's really where this is making a change. So the other element here is that apparently in 2012, 45 million students viewed Khan Academy basic videos about 200 million times. It is estimated that by next year, kids in Europe will be paying more attention to Khan Academy than in school, right? Because the teachers at Khan Academy are way better than the teachers in school. More fun, more engaging, more gamified. They have mobile apps for you to learn everything from kindergarten to advanced linear algebra and calculus. Everyone. So if you guys are not augmenting what you're being taught in here with some of these basics in Khan Academy, you're missing out. So again, what's happening now is that this point about basic knowledge is now democratized. Nobody has an exclusive access, right? So there's no reason why you can't pick up 10 skills at the same time, right? And the most employable people will be people with multiple skills. Right? So if I had to kind of summarize this entire thing, right? There are 5 things that are changing the nature of work. Right? We spoke about nature of businesses, but basically the nature of work. One is that increasingly hierarchies are being replaced by flatter social networks. Right? So organizations are increasingly saying hierarchies are inefficient. If I can get random groups of productive people to connect with each other and build stuff, right? In fact, when the government of India recently announced something silly, like they were blocking some websites for some security, and one of those websites happened to be GitHub. You have no idea of the amount of panic that was there in every IT company startup doing programming, because there is no development without GitHub. And what does that actually tell you? It actually tells you that there is no programming and development today without the source as shared by other people. It's as simple as that. If you do not have access to GitHub, you are just adding months and months to your effort. So in some sense, that's one thing. The second thing is, we are all taught from childhood. And to be fair, I often get accused of my parents' generation too much, but it's only fair. They had a fair point where they said you need to focus. You can't be distracted, right? You have hobbies, class 10, that put an end. Only focus on this environment. That's really essentially, I mean, class pressure is essentially which is fine, right? Now, what is interesting is that it's one thing to think that the newer way of doing this is to have ambient awareness. It's to always have multiple things. It's to always have a creative person, artistic person, pick up 2-3 other parallel skills. For example, if you are a mechanical engineer, there's no reason why you shouldn't pick up machine learning, deep learning, and big data skills, because analytics is now everywhere. Everything that was traditional engineering and algorithm driven is now data driven. Everything, right? So there's an example of a major Rolls-Royce, GE, Cummins, etc. Who all make these engines, massive aircraft engines, truck engines, etc. sensors in every part of the engine, and they send terabytes of data. Every time the engine is in maintenance, they're able to download terabytes of data. And human beings don't diagnose problems. Software programs now diagnose problems. So mechanical engineering is also about data analytics and so on. So the point here is that everybody requires to have ambient awareness in some sense of multiple things. But sometimes it's very arrogant of us to think that this is the new way, and that this is our generation, young generation, that came up with these new. We have to deal with the internet generation. You older people don't understand. You lived in different times. It's very easy for us to say that. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that this idea of ambient awareness versus narrow focus is not something that's new. It's very specifically a 300 to 400-year-old phenomenon thanks to the Industrial Revolution. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, the idea of a well-rounded human being was somebody who had skills in everything. But the Industrial Revolution said, no, now we need non-thinking, single-track-minded, conveyor belt employees, which is what they needed in the earliest factories. And our entire world is based on people producing factory producing people for a specific role, with a specific, ENT doctors. No, not even, I only specialize in nose, I only specialize in the left nostril. People know. This is a problem of the Industrial Revolution. But to be honest, this actually goes back even further. In fact, it goes back all the way to the Mahabharata. So what I thought I'll do is I'll give you a sense for how many of us unfortunately grew up understanding the Mahabharata only from the point of view of that atrocious Doordarshan series, which basically missed the point of the entire thing, right? The real Mahabharata was actually multi-layered and far more sophisticated. Examples actually this. Why do you think there were only 5 Pandavas? And by the way, for that matter, many of these basic ideas, many of these older myths, they're not unique to the Mahabharata. They're common in practically every part of the world. So those of you who watch Linga, and there's Nikon reading a book by Joseph Campbell called The Hero with 1,000 Faces. You may want to actually read that book. It's actually quite fascinating, right? It's that the common mythological patterns are common across civilizations, across religions, across all the same, right? So why were there only 5 Pandavas? The reason is actually this, right? As engineers, if you plot an axis, X and Y axis, on one axis you say, what do I think of myself? And the other axis you say, one is about self-image, the other is about external image. And you will find that you get 4 quadrants. In one quadrant, people think highly of me, I think highly of myself. That's one. The second quadrant you get, I think highly of myself, but people never appreciate me. So that's the second quadrant. The third quadrant is, I think poorly of myself, but people are very nice to me. And the fourth quadrant is, I think poorly of myself, and the people think poorly of me. Right? So these 4 quadrants are actually represented by 4 of the Pandavas. Yudhishthira is basically, I am Dharmaraja, everybody respects me, I know I am great. He's in that. Bhima represents the angry man. I know I'm good, but nobody understands me, so that's why he's always angry. The angry young man is Bhima, right? Nakula is forever the student, right? So he's always in some ashram learning something. If you read, right? So what he says is that I know nothing, I always need to learn, so society is good. And Sahadeva, who's the astrologer and very introspective, is the guy who's sort of seceded from society. He's the one it's about introspection and meditation. So he's the one who says, I don't think about myself, the world doesn't think much about me. Right? So basically these 4 characters, and the reason why the Mahabharata has 5 characters, it's basically telling you all these 4 characters are flawed. Why? Because it's simply crazy to be one kind all the time. There are times when you must be at peace with the world. There are times when you must be angry and challenge the world. There are times when you must recede and let the world teach you. And there are times when you must completely introspect and meditate, right? And therefore, the central, the third, the middle son, Arjuna, is the one who represents all 5. In that he can be angry when he needs to. He can be and sort of appreciative when he needs to. He can be a learner under all these gurus when he needs to, and he can be completely introspective when he needs to. Right? He can be ambiently aware when he needs to. He can be narrowly focused when he needs to. Right? So that's the reason why there are 5 Pandavas. And what is interesting is that in the 14th year of their exile, it's interesting to note what Valmiki put the incognito period when they had to hide as somebody else. There, Arjuna is a woman, where again they're actually symbolically telling you that the ideal person is not just strictly a man or strictly a woman, but takes the best of it. Right? There are obviously certain stereotypes that we associate with women and associate with man. The fact that this man is able to straddle both of that is again, so that sense of balance, right, is inbuilt into most of these myths. Right? So that's basically what this whole ambient awareness over narrow focus is. Narrow focus is something that you require. Right? If somebody is designing, if a surgeon's doing an operation, I don't think he should be Google searching and updating Facebook while he's doing it. That's absolutely not a good idea at all. But there are times, where now even surgeons, when they do surgery, they sometimes step back and look at the entire scans and soak in the larger picture for a while. The best surgeons do that because they know that if they only do narrow focus, they're going to miss things. They need to step back. They need to look at the wider pictures. So it's important for us to model this in our daily, how we think about remixing, because the most creative ideas today don't come from the industries themselves. They come from outside. Who is disrupting media? Not the media companies. Google is. Netflix is. Who's disrupting retail? Not the retailers. Amazon is. Who's disrupting anything for that matter? Who's disrupting car manufacturing? Google. Right? So what's happening now is that a lot of innovation is happening not from specialization, but only through big picture generalization, where you can pick the best ideas from multiple places. Right? The things that I wanted to. So in some sense, so here's the fundamental message, right? The fundamental message is that increasingly as you go forward, as algorithmic and engineering, basic fundamental logical reasoning and engineering will be done by computers. You will all see this in your lifetimes. You will see this in the next 5 to 10 years, in the early part of your careers. But increasingly what will happen is that ultimately the ability of people to understand the human cloud, which is the cognitive capability of large groups of people being able to collectively do wonderful things, and also very stupid, like what you get on WhatsApp forwards and all that, but collectively do great things is going to be quite crucial, right? So that essentially is what Krish said. There's a book called Here Comes Everybody. So it's actually a fascinating book. So with that, this is what I had to share. Thank you. Questions, I guess. So if you can train algorithms to handle exceptions, then right? So that's the thing. So you'll find that situations where something out of the blue will come and make a. If you really understanding of this, there's a very profound 500-page but very difficult to read book called The Second Machine Age by Andrew McAfee and Eric Brynjolfsson, MIT professors. So they have written about this impact. The second machine age. The first machine age was the invention of the steam engine. The second machine age is where we are now. The second machine age, he says, is going to be powered purely by deep learning and machine learning. In that this is going to change our far more profoundly than any changes in the last 300 years. So that's an interesting book to read about the potential impact of what kind of jobs are going to go away. Yeah, I think the blue. That's obviously more a political question than a technology question. So, and I don't think there are technology answers to this. To the point is that what will happen if there is so much automation that you wouldn't need any of these jobs, and what will happen to people who are at the bottom of the pyramid who are still in the process of coming up. So that's really a political question, right? there are two schools of thought there. There are technology leaders like the Elon Musks and the Bill Gates, some group of people believe that a better solution for the future as we automate everything is essentially saying that if machines are so easy and make wealth creation so easy, maybe we should just have a social safety net, right? So today, for example, if you are an unemployed citizen in US, you get a certain minimum social security. So if you don't have a job, you can go every week. They'll give you food stamps, they'll give you money, so you can survive, not too very well, but you can survive. If you're in Australia, the government gives you so much money if you're unemployed that many kids actually choose to stay unemployed. It's a different level. In Europe, in the Nordic countries, Sweden and Finland example, the social safety net is phenomenal. Healthcare is free, education is free, job security is free, pensions, everything is taken. They believe that in the future, the Scandinavian model needs to be applied in a wider part of the world. In that today you may have the Amma Unavagam and the 2 rupee rice, but that's not enough, right? You may perhaps need a minimum guaranteed income that will be given to every human being for basic Maslow's needs, which is food, security, shelter, etc., so that they can then think of what to do, what skills to pick up. Right? If people are struggling for food every day, they can't be thinking about education, they can't be thinking about careers, etc. So again, it's a political thing. It's not going to happen easily, but that's, even Andrew McAfee argues that that's pretty much the only solution for a technological future where human beings will not need to do jobs anymore. So that's about the only solution. So but it's not something that technology can solve. It's a political thing.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Karthikeyan. What I want to ask is it possible develop artificial intelligence? It's possible for robots to make think on their own, like we have human brains. Computer is based on GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. So what we input is what it outputs, right?
Yeah.
So if a problem arises, it's only a human brain which can solve the problem, not the computers. If they have a capability to think on their own, then they can do that.
No, very much. That's exactly what the breakthroughs in the last 3 years have been. Is that the restrictions on what kind of inputs a computer can process have now increasingly become more and more sophisticated. Earlier, you couldn't just put a camera on a computer and say, see the world and understand what's going on. But now we can. Because drones regularly do that. Autonomous drones take photographs, videos of the place they're flying over, distinguish between whether something's a car or a tank, whether somebody's carrying a stick or a gun, somebody's carrying a shoulder-fired missile or a basket, and are able to make firing decisions, right? So the point is that this distinction of can they is, we have a very, either they can think fully like a human or be completely dumb, but computers are getting somewhere here now. To the point they are now closer than they've ever been, right? A human being still has certain advantages, but here's the interesting thing. There are now certain categories of tasks where the computers know better. Playing chess, better. Quiz competitions, better. Right? Driving, better. Dealing with hazardous environments, better. Increasingly, drones that maybe going on a romantic date, perhaps not as good. So the point is, there may still be certain very human things. But the point is that I think it's for us to see this as a spectrum, not as either it's completely dumb or it's completely like a human being. Depends on the task that you want to do. If you see a cleaning robot, it is genuinely really, really good. So you can see that there are many things where the situation of, would you rather have a human being who's a servant cleaning your house for you, or would you have a robot? Right? There are many. So in that sense, it's made significant progress. I think that blue shirt and black, he's been asking, wanting to ask.
Hello sir, this is Risha Singh.
Yeah.
I am so interested in automobile. So I just want to ask, I started the basic learning yesterday only, what the car is, what the functioning it does. So I want to ask, deep learning, I want to get it through. Start from means I start from the car Benz car. I don't know means where to start from.
So two things, right? There is still a physical aspect of the car, which is the engineering, transmission and so on. So there's this gradual shift from your internal combustion to more electrical drives anyway. So that's happening thanks to Tesla and so on. Um, the second side is the navigation and the driving, the car's intelligence, if you will. So that's where the deep learning and all of those things come in. So if you want to start, so these are two separate things, right? So on the mechanical side, machine learning first and then get into deep learning tougher. So if you're not from a computer science background, I mean, there's a lot to understand basic data structures, then neural nets, then deep Coursera courses for all of this.
Numerous of thoughts are coming to my mind, like, I must get through the course only, get gain mass, so that I can be a.
As I said, so there's one thing, right? So I give this example constantly. People who say that they don't have time are deluding themselves. So I think we all waste a lot of time, including me. So Clay Shirky, who wrote Here Comes Everybody, has this interesting anecdote, right? Wikipedia, which has 7 or 8 million articles, they estimated how many person hours of effort it was. It turns out to be 100 million person hours as a project. Wikipedia was an IT project, would have taken 100 million person hours, right? I mean, that's 100 million person hours. It could be 100 million people spending 1 hour or 1 billion people spending 1 minute. So that apart, right? So the idea is to really think of it as hours. Really appreciate what 100 million person hours is till we realize in the US people spend 2 billion hours watching television advertisements. We spend 2 billion hours just watching correctly. Again, 2 billion, 100 million, sometimes we have trouble processing large numbers. A better way of looking at it is Americans spend 100 million hours collectively every weekday evening. His point is that if Americans turned off the TV just during the advertisements for 1 day of the year, we'd have enough time to create another Wikipedia. So his point is that time is very, 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 very relative, right? So I think we are terrible at planning our own lives. We all waste a lot of time, and we all underestimate the ability that if I take 10 minutes a day to watch one video about machine learning, or listen to a 5-minute podcast once in 3 or 4 hours, it's surprising how much you can learn. Because we believe that we have to set aside 20 hours to do something. That's not true. You only have to set aside 5 minutes a day, right? So it's really about continuous partial attention. You don't have to take any of your existing exam, but if you're commuting, listening to podcasts, and by the way, I'll give you another product. Listen to audio podcasts at 3 times the speed, because Americans speak slowly anyway. You can listen to them. You can train your ear to listen to them at 3 times the speed, and you save time. So a 60-minute lecture is 20 minutes. That's a lot of saving, right? And if you close your eyes, you can really even do 4x. Incidentally, blind people do 10x, up to 10x, where they use. So in fact, there are these screen readers which allow blind people to read books. The most efficient blind readers read faster than people with eyesight. Here's a fascinating insight. Because they read up to 9 to 10 times the speed. If you listen to that screen reader which reads out text on a web page, you won't be able to understand anything because it's spoken at a phenomenal pace. It's 9 to 10 times the speed of ordinary speech. Regular sighted people, because we have too many distractions, we can manage 3 to 3.5 times the normal speed, and you can save a lot of time. So there's multiple ways in which you can make time for yourself. There's no reason why, and even carve out a little bit of time to watch a YouTube video. You should download it at home, put it on your phone, watch it. There's many ways to do this. I do this, when there's a boring lecture going on.
Hi sir, my name is Ashwin. You mentioned about the Khan website. Nowadays people are learning that more effectively. Is it the technology have become more effective, or people have become more lazy to rely on that website?
I think I think the right way of looking at it is, see, one of the things that the internet has done is that it is just the guy who makes those videos is a brilliant he's an electrical engineer from MIT, Harvard MBA. Became very rich as an investment banker by the age of 30, and he said this is not what I want to do, and I want to teach people. And the guy, so the point is, the fact that you're sitting in Chennai, right, 13 and a half hour time zone difference with that guy in California, and you're able to basically learn from him, is really what technology is. The fact that anyone in Bangladesh and in Philippines, any part of the world, Sri Lanka, the most Africa, that they can all learn from him is really what technology is. What is actually done is it made people think, you know what, do you think the physics teacher in my school understands physics at the level of depth that he does? Probably not. So that's really what, it's not about people's laziness. I think it's about the fact that you have access to better material, better teaching, and more incentivized learning happening on Khan Academy than in schools. That's really what it is.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
Hi, sir. Your views on creativity was exemplary. I would like to ask your advice for, for those who would software industry, say from different fields to the software industry. 90% of the people who lie in that category. What is your advice for them to reach? Go up the career ladder, or say in the.
So there are two sort of broad views about the software industry. Right? The one is and it's important we address the negative and the cynical view first, which is that there are large numbers of people who believe that software has taken a lot of talented engineers and made them very poor software engineers. In that we take civil engineers, we take all comers, and then we'll turn them into, we'll put them on work for an insurance company and so on. Right? So there's always been that perception. But at the same time, what has happened in the last 10 years is the fact that 10 years ago, and I was at this panel discussion at IIT University, and they put up an interesting chart. It was actually quite fascinating. They put up a chart of where IIT Madras graduates get placed. So they said they had categories such as core engineering, which is that a civil engineer gets placed in a civil engineering company, like a mechanical engineer in an automobile or a manufacturing company. Electrical engineer gets placed in a company that's actually doing electrical engineering. And then they said another category of jobs. Third category of jobs was quant and management. That's, by the way, a new category, which is, since all of you come with above average mathematical skills, banks and they feel that why pay huge salaries for MBAs when I can take engineers and make them do the same Excel sheet statistical modeling work that an expensive IIM graduate. So it's also happening. So there are graduates right from engineering and make them do financial modeling, computer science guys. So what was fascinating about that fact is that then my boss then, Krish, was the CTO of TCS, he actually pointed out that, look, is this fair anymore, right? Take mechanical engineering, right? In the last 10 years, 50% of all mechanical engineering jobs involve software. Right? Nobody is doing machine filing anymore. Everybody is doing CAD/CAM. Nobody is actually writing wiring navigation systems. They're actually writing software. So there is a softwareization of every business. All software. Retail is all software. Right? Manufacturing, the last bastion, is all software. Every industry. So therefore, seeing core engineering as software as separate is fundamentally important. So my advice to you would be that if you're deeply passionate about the engineering in that space that you grew up in, then it's important that you get into IT with a specialization in that specific line on the long run. Please have that. Fair enough, the first 2 or 3 years, that you should be generic and you should pick up generic IT skills. But what we find is that we have enough and more number of people who continue to do computational fluid dynamics, do CAD/CAM modeling for automobile companies, do deep engineering work, machine learning work on a wide variety of in retail. Right? So therefore, my advice is always pick up multiple skills. Right? I would say that the biggest biggest skill that you can pick up in the first 3 years of your career is big data analytics. That's fundamental to every business. Start with basic statistics, analytics, basic big data technologies, basic machine learning after that, and then if you're really up for it, you can do other deep learning and other things. But trust me, these will become fundamental parts of every business. To do what? Market segmentation. Banks want to analyze millions of payment records that they have, and then analyze who's likely to travel, who's likely to buy insurance, who's likely to take a house loan, and so on. So there's the applicability of this is just insanely everywhere. So that's one additional skill that I would have everyone pick up. And then the second thing is obviously once you deeply specialize in a specific area of your domain and understand the business in that engineering domain as well, then you're ideally set as a so that by 3 or 4 years you'll be ideally placed. So that would be the ideal case.
Sir, you seem to be a very
Yeah.
you seem to be a very interesting person and multi-talented too. I'm assuming that you have a lot of emails from following. In fact, when I first got your profile and passed it on to Sri Prakash, he immediately said yes, yes, yes. So that's how it is.
So I fundamentally believe there's no such thing called multi-talent.
Okay.
It's basically a multi-talented person, essentially just a person who creatively manages his time.
Okay.
Right? If you really just if any of you spend 10 hours, sorry, if any of you spend 15 minutes a day for every task, there's a certain amount of basic minimum time you need to spend on a daily basis. If you spend 15 minutes of time a day, right? I guarantee you, all of you can play a basic simple song on the guitar in less than 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes a day. That's it. And but here's the interesting thing, right? So if it's very crucial to have interesting goals. If your goal is that I should get good at a guitar, that doesn't work. Right? So when I was learning, so I learned the only instrument I was forced to learn was the violin. Parents forced the whole Carnatic thing on me, like they do to everyone in Chennai. Sort of, I grew up hating it, etc., etc. But it did help me pick up other things. So my first goal for guitar was that my girlfriend's birthday is coming up in 6 months, right?
Please
So
note it,
the target was to be able to write, sing, and record a song for her birthday. So that's a nice goal. So it'll actually drive you towards doing, right? And here's the interesting thing. So it also really works well with constraints, right? So you're not going to pick like a Mozart or some complicated song. You want to pick something that you can do, right? And here's the interesting thing. Pedagogy is now changing. The way people learn is not by learning theory. They only learn by having exciting, immediately doable projects. And this is called the video game theory of learning. Okay? When you play Candy Crush, you really believe you can complete this level because, oh damn, I only have 5 moves. I can really do it. If learning is typically designed immediate, doable, exciting enough goals, then there's nothing that can stop you from learning pretty much any skill. Right? So there's lots of videos. There's in fact a video of a guy who has learned 25 languages through this method. He's learned to speak 25 languages simply by applying a very simple method of how he has immediate near-term goals. Then he says, okay, today's goal is to go to the mall, go to a Korean store and speak to that employee in Korean. He makes a complete fool of himself and he puts those videos on YouTube to inspire himself. The early videos, the person says your Korean is quite bad, but eventually it gets quite good.
I think we have seen someone who balances life and livelihood. You're a living example, sir, and we also would like to emulate some people like you. Especially in today's generation, we want to do a lot of things apart from just going and earning. We have a lot of aspirations. So yeah, please put your hands together for Ashok, Krish.
Thank you.
I now hand over the mic to Monisha.
Sir, if you're wondering why they weren't laughing at all the right places, we would definitely pay attention. We just clearly need to work on our sense of humor. Please don't judge us and please do come back. That was a very thought-provoking and interesting guest lecture put in a very comic way by Mr. Ashok Krish, the comic man that he is. Please, ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause. Please check out his blog, Doing Jalsa and Showing Jilpa, because I'm a huge fan of your blog and it's the most hilarious blog on earth. Like, you'll be on the floor laughing. So now I call upon the CTF Student Director, Sri Prada, to present Mr. Ashok Krish with the momentum. Thank you, sir. I call upon Vasha to talk about the TCS Marathon.
I'd like to inform you all about one of the initiatives taken up by the TCS. It goes like you run and we contribute. It's basically a Tata consultancy service Fit for Life Campus Challenge